In this video, we're going to be taking a look at a nifty little application that's available for iPad and iPhone users, and they do have a Mac desktop version as well, and that's a little program called Amadine. And what I was looking for was a program that I could use on my iPad to create vector graphics. So let's go ahead and begin by creating a new document here. I'm going to import an image of the graphic that I'm looking to create. In this particular example, we're going to be making a layout for an LED neon sign. So we're going to be making this little car layout. Um, so I'm working on my iPhone, but certainly this works the same way on your iPad as well. So next thing we're going to do is we're just going to zoom in here a little bit. We do that with our finger gestures, like you would on an iPhone. We can zoom in and out with two fingers. And then I'm going to come down here to my layers icon. And on this bitmap image, I'm going to lower the opacity. And I'm also going to lock that so I cannot no longer move my bitmap. Okay. Now, the nice thing about this design is that it's symmetrical. So the right-hand side is the same as the left. So we're just going to create the left-hand side of our image. First thing we're going to do is click and hold with our mouse. I'm using a mouse key, but you could just touch the screen, click and hold. And when you let go, you're going to get this little contextual menu where we can click on guides and we can choose add vertical. And we can come over and add a guideline right in the center of our document here. So now we'll go ahead and begin the design process. So I'm going to come up here to my pen tool and we're going to click here and come over and click and then click here. And then to get out of your pen tool, you would have to right click and choose deselect. Okay, now you can see here we have our piece here, but there's this weird fill. So we're going to come down to our brush and we're going to turn off the fill, turn on the stroke. Let's go ahead and give it a 3-pixel stroke. And let's go ahead and change the stroke color to red just so we can see it a little bit better. Now, nothing happened because this piece wasn't actually selected. So let's go do that again. 3, and then change the color to red. There you go. So now you can see we have what we're looking for. All right, so now I'm going to zoom in here a little bit because we need to bend this curve. And to do that, we start off here with our selection tool. So we're going to select it. And then we have this option down here where we can click and drag. It says edit segments by dragging. So we can edit this segment by dragging it. You can see that there. And then we get these control handles where we can further control the shape that we're looking to control. Okay, we're going to go ahead and move that down there a little bit. And then once you're happy with it, there you go. So there's our first piece. So let's go ahead and move on to our next piece. We'll go back to our pen tool. We'll come right in here, click, and we'll come down here and click. And you can zoom in the middle of all this so you can get your real precise placements. Okay, we'll move back. We've got to right click to get out of the pen tool. We'll move back into our selection tool, and then we have to click on the object that we want to modify, and then make sure that we click on that drag segment option, and then we can drag this segment. You can see that there. We've got our control handles now, so we can take control of this segment and bend it just exactly the way we look at to bend it. Okay, go back to our pencil here. I'm going to zoom in a little bit on this one. Click here, and click here. Again, right click, deselect. So now we've taken care of that. Now I think I'm going to go ahead and take care of this piece right here. So we're in our pen tool. We're going to click here. We're going to click here. We're going to right click and choose deselect. And then we are going to switch over to our selection tool, select our curve, drag segments, and then you can see here we can now take control and get that segment exactly how we want it. Okay? And again, we're just kind of using this as a guide, so We don't need absolute perfection here. So we're going to come in here, come down to here, right click, deselect. Now you see here, it didn't actually create anything. I don't know why. Let's try that again though. There, there we go. Right click and deselect. Move over to our selection tool, drag our segment the way we want it to be dragged, and then we can control our control handles a little bit and get our curve exactly how we want it. Okay, so that all looks good. So now what do we want to do? Let's go ahead and take care of this big curve right here. Okay, now part of drawing this, we have to think about, well, how would we actually make this in LED? So I'm going to start with this piece right here. So we'll switch over to our pencil. Oh, we are still in our pencil, so let's make sure we deselect. And then we can come down here and start a new shape down here. Okay, so right click, deselect, switch over to our selection tool, click on that shape, click on that, and then if we click here, you see we don't actually have any control handles. We did smooth that out. I'm going to just double tap on my screen with two fingers, and what that will undo the last step. So you can see here we do have the drag segment option. So now we have our control handles. And now we can kind of fine tune that a little bit. And we have our control handles up here. Let's switch this one. Okay. Now if we click here, we can choose this option to smooth that out. You can see it actually did a really good job smoothing that out for us. And then again, we can kind of fine tune our shape a little bit from there. So we'll hit smooth again. And now you can see we have a nice, I don't really like this though. There we go. So now that kind of straightened that out a little bit. So then we're going to do this curve all the way around. So we're going to switch over to our pen tool again. Click here, here, and over here. Right click and deselect. And then we're going to go to our selection tool, select our shape, and drag by segment. There we go. Get our control handle here. Okay, so we've got that controlled. Now we can go ahead and do this one. And let's just right click, deselect. And then I want to go ahead and click on that node and smooth that out. Now you can see that did something that was a little bit unpredictable. So we will try and fix that as best we can. Now, if we move this node, you can see the other side moves with it. Okay, so we can change the node type. If you look here, there's some different options. We can break it, join it, but we're going to go ahead and click on that. And what that does is that creates a anchor point, if you will. And then so we can modify this without modifying everything. See? See how that works there? And now we can actually smooth that out. And we get a little better result there. Okay? So I don't know if I really want it that. So maybe control that a little bit better. That looks a little bit better. We could even move, we could zoom in a little bit here. We want to be a little bit more precise. Take a little bit more control. And that will ultimately look a little bit better, a little bit more like the original. Okay, I'm happy with that. So now we just kind of made that a little bit better. All right, so now let's go ahead, go back to our pencil. We'll get our next segment down here. So we're going to click there. We'll click over here. And then we'll click over here. And then I want to show you something else that we can do. Click over here. And then we're going to come all the way over here. So you can kind of see what we've done now. So we're going to right click and choose deselect. But another option we have, let me see if I can show you this. So you see how I kind of created straight line segments? Well, we actually have another option here where we can click right down here. So next to our layers icon is this paths icon. And we can choose to simplify our path. And when we do that, we can kind of move this down. Now, sometimes it's hard to see what we're editing and what we're trying to do here. So let me zoom in here a little bit. And let me move this up here maybe a little bit better. All right. So let's go back over here. And let's choose that paths icon option and simplify. And now look at right there, what we're going to do here. See how that kind of gets to a certain point where we can smooth it out? Let's try that right there. Okay. And so you can see that that kind of automatically smooths it a little bit for us. And we might like that and we might not. You know, that's the reality of it. Okay. Um, Sometimes it does a really good job of smoothing things out for us, and other times not so much. I'm going to move this back up here. And one of the things that will help, I tell you what, let's just throw that away. And let me show you, let's go ahead and toss that too. Let me just show you this a little bit better detail. So I'm going to zoom in here a little bit better. So we're in our pencil, and we're going to come down here. And what we're going to do is we're going to click shorter segments here. So if we're not real good with our editing tools, that's okay, because we can create shorter segments. I'm just going to come all the way over, right to there. Okay? And then we have to right click and deselect. All right, so we have all these segments now. So let's go over to our selection tool. And you see here all those segments that we created. So I'm going to move this up a little bit just so we can see this a little easier. So come into our paths palette. We'll choose that simplify option again and watch how that curvature kind of just automatically kind of fixes itself, so to speak. And with that, now we have a nice gradual curve. Okay, so there's lots of little tricks and things to do in here. So now we're going to come down here, come straight on over, and click, and deselect, and then we'll grab down here, and let's zoom in a little bit, right to there. Right click and choose deselect. Okay, so there we go. So now that's the bulk of our design. So we have three elements left. We have some circles and we have this rounded rectangle. I'm going to show you how we tackle that. There's actually a rounded rectangle tool right here inside Amadine up top here. Click and hold. That gives us our rounded rectangle tool so that when we come in here, when we draw our rounded rectangle, you can see that works pretty well. Okay, so let's go back to our selection tool here, and we're just going to extend this path right over to that one. That's really all we're going to do. And then we are going to adjust that path just a little bit too. And then we're going to pull this one down just a little bit. Okay, now we have our circles to contend with. So let's go back over here where our rounded rectangle was. Click and hold, get our ellipse tool. And when we click and hold, we can move our ellipse. But if we touch our screen with another finger, that constrains to a perfect circle. So how cool is that? Okay, we'll get that in place. And then if we want to adjust this, we can, but just hold your finger down and that will adjust it proportionally. Okay, then back over here, let's do the big one. We're going to go back to our ellipse tool here, put our finger on the screen, go back to our move tool here, and fine tune its placement. And yes, we probably should make it a little bit smaller. And we'll zoom in a little bit. When I need to move it just a little bit, I just zoom in tighter, and that seems to work pretty good. One other thing we might want to do is let's go ahead and change our path color, just so we know that these are kind of differentiated here. A little bit easier. There we go. Okay, so that is essentially all there is to it. Pretty cool stuff. Okay, so now what we want to do is we want to export this as an SVG file. So we can come in here and we are going to choose the share option, and then we are going to choose export, and we have a couple of options. We have SVG, PDF, TIFF, PNG, JPEG, or Amadine format. So we are going to choose SVG for this example, and go ahead and choose share. And then it's basically going to ask us share it to where. And I'm going to save it to my files. And uh, we are on my iCloud drive, so I'm going to come into Amadine. Let's save it in there, and then let's give it a name. Okay, so let's just call it, I'll tell you what, let's do this. Let's call it New Chevy. Okay, so we'll have New Chevy and click on Save. And now we can export this. So I'm going to show you how I would go about exporting this. So let's go, how do we want to do this? Let's go into Messenger, I think, and let's go down, and let's say I want to send a file uh, that's on that's in my drive. So we're going to hit plus and see it says share a file. And you can see these are my recent files. That's the new Chevy file. So we'll go ahead and click on that and choose open. And you can see here we have the new Chevy file SVG that was set. Okay. So now I can go to my desktop and open up that SVG file and be able to work on it from there. Okay, so that's it for this one. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you're looking for an application to use on your phone or your iPad, that Amadine is a really neat little application. Now I'm using a mouse on my cell phone, but if you had a mouse connected to your iPad, you'd be good to go. And the program is dirt cheap. It's like $30 for a lifetime license. And the other thing that's kind of nice is if you have a family group, so you can actually save that, share that application with your family group. So if you have kids or your spouse that want to do design work as well, they'll be able to because they'll be part of your family group. I think you can have up to 5 users in your family group, so all 5 of you can use the application um, with full capability. Pretty cool stuff.